Salutations. It's been a while. I was gone to Australia for 2 months, and one of the months I was in the hospital. So I'm glad to be here. I've recovered quite well, and I appreciate the few people that know that sent me good wishes. So anyway, I wanted to kind of touch on something different right now, something that kind of incorporates a lot of what we've talked about and kind of puts it together, because we hear a lot about the modalities of contact right now. So let's talk a little bit more about modalities of contact and expand that a little bit, all right? So what we're going to deal with, I want to talk about the deep biosphere and organic craft, and the fact that actually organic craft themselves are not just the fungus as part of the compound and are grown over the micro wormholes like I've described to you before. Not just are we dealing with that, we're also dealing with the fact that there are also multicellular microorganisms that are part of these ships also in symbiotic connection with them. Sometimes advanced type 5, type 4, type 5 civilizations that are on the conscious level, but yet micro, not just micro, but pico. Okay, remember even the alliance that I've dealt with say that they go from the micro to the macro. So I think we need to start dealing with the pico and how some of these civilizations would go on with that and go on that level. All right. Now, when taking that and cross-referencing that with actually the biosphere itself, the deep biosphere of Earth and what that is, you know, there are pictures at the beginning and end that explain that a little bit, but there's actually, it's what, 3 times the size, twice the volume of all Earth's oceans, and that's actually where actually 99% of like the undiscovered bacteria lies, to a point where a lot of this bacteria, and I find this fascinating, and we have to give absolute credit for this, all right, in terms that a lot of this bacteria is called microbial dark matter. Okay, that's what they're actually calling these bacteria. Now, when we want to deal with that in some of these types of, not just the healing factor of the Earth, but the Earth being actually conscious itself. So I think we have a lot of these craft that are going down, they're going into the ground, both from the ocean, also from, we see some craft that I've actually seen going into mountains or going into the ground. So if we take this in terms of not just contact being about, there could be inner-earth cities there, interterrestrial cities, or also bases in the ocean. I do believe there is such, you know, but there's also something different in terms of the ship itself having symbiotic connection with the Earth, going into the ground and actually into the biosphere, and that there's some that the craft, some of the organisms, the microorganisms, sentient microorganisms of the craft are in symbiotic union with some of these unknown bacteria that exist within the Earth in the biosphere, in the deep biosphere. So I think that's very real, and we need to start expanding this in terms of what some of these craft actually are, what organic craft are, conscious craft actually are. And this also kind of, I think, takes us into another realm of some of the phenomena we see on Earth, like the Earth lights, bions that Wilhelm Reich discovered. That's always fascinating. That got me when I first was back in the early 90s into orgone research and trying to learn more about that. I came across the bions first, and the different bion cultures that he was making I found very, very interesting. So that takes us also to some of these things that we're seeing if you worked with some of these orgone equipment and started taking pictures around it with ultraviolet back there in that day, ultraviolet and infrared. You start seeing these critters around. It's what Trevor Constable and Trevor Constable called them, are critters. They seem to exist on that spectrum. You can see quite a bit, but they look a lot like amoeba. Rods look like flagellum. So I think you're dealing with a lot of these are microorganisms that we can see that inhabit the dimension just a little off from us. But they can be picked up, all right? So in some ways like that, but when dealing with the biosphere and the living organism of craft and UFO and how they're sentient, rather than a lot of the craft exist themselves. And I've explained how some of these craft are constructed. What was given to me from this alliance is that the compounds they use are minerals, metals that are mined from planets that are devoid of Van Allen belts. Okay, they're much more resistant. and then they have a type of a fungus combined with the DNA from the crew. And that's what the compound is that's grown over the wormhole. So in dealing with that, but when taking that a step forward to organisms that have actually given themselves to be sentient vessels for other life forms, many of which are non-corporeal, it just takes us to a different level. Make sure I hit everything here. For example, I think that's a lot of it. That takes us into extremophiles also that we have on this planet. That goes into the biosphere. All right, so not just you've got extremophiles. That's I think another big one. So this is these things I think are very much correlated. Don't forget also that how I've showed some of this technology, how this is connected to the being Mana that I connected that has like the brain coral, and how that being is somehow connected to the bleaching of the coral that's going on right now. So whether that's a species that becomes sentient in the future when coral becomes more sentient, or if it's something from the past that had actually gone extragalactic and still is involved with the Earth matrix. Just food for thought, all right? I think I've hit everything here. Actually, the deep biosphere was explored by what's called the Deep Carbon Observation Team, I guess. That's 1,000 scientists that worked on that for 10 years globally. So I think it's very interesting. Please check out the deep biosphere, learn more about what's on this planet. You know, we start getting away from some of the things that are more legend and where the science is and what actually fact is what some of these craft coming here are. I've been on board Organic Craft, been talking about it publicly for 5 years now, so please think about this if you're somebody that might have experienced this or somehow is connected to this type of the contact modality. Thank you very much. Please subscribe, please put a like on it. I'm still on Patreon, and I want to really say thank you to the people on Patreon. I was in the hospital for a month, and then after that I wasn't feeling like doing videos until I got back to the United States. So thank you very much. I appreciate all of you staying here. That's why these videos going down now, because those people stayed with me, and I appreciate all the other people that put all these nice comments on there. I'm starting to get very amazed by the amount of people that are watching these videos. So thank you, much power. Please subscribe. Peace.